and I will put the link to that into the chat. So today's session is titled Where Medicine Meets Momentum, Powering the Future of Health Innovation, and our presenter is Anne DeChant. And Anne is the Associate Director for the Center for Medical Innovation here at the College of Medicine. She leads education and training programs for CMI, providing specialized programming for healthcare innovation and commercialization, and also manages a portfolio of therapeutics and diagnostic technologies, and provides expertise and support for translational research and development. Anne is a dynamic leader with 20 plus years experience in higher ed, and she earned her MBA at Case Western Reserve University, her MS in cell biology at Cleveland State University, and her BS at Ohio State University. So with that, I'm excited to turn it over to our presenter, Anne. Take it away.
Thank you for that introduction, Jessica. That was great. Hi, it's a small group, so I'm happy to just have more of a conversation about this. So whatever you're comfortable with, like Jessica said, jump in whenever you want. And in fact, if you want to talk about your technology or your research at all, I'm happy to have even that kind of conversation as we go through this. So feel free. I'm pretty easy about that kind of stuff. So I'm going to start sharing, but like I said, please feel free to interrupt at any point. All right. So today I wanted to talk about sort of like Jess said, the healthcare innovation that's in academic spaces, and sort of how it affects you directly as researchers. Let's see, is everything working out? There we go. All right. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is really the difference between invention and innovation, which is, language matters sometimes, and this is one of those instances because invention is a lot of what all the faculty are here doing. They're inventing and discovering novel devices, methods, compositions, ideas, processes, compounds, drug targets, etc. And those are the inventions. So these are the ideas and the things that come up as you do your research. Innovation is actually the practical implementation of these ideas, right? So it's actually taking that invention and making it replicable, making it an economical product, and making it something that actually helps satisfy a specific need. So that's why there's a difference between those two things and why we really focus on the word innovation when we talk about what we're doing here at Penn State. So what do you need to know to be able to do innovation? Nothing big, really. I mean, it's only a few majillion things like regulatory pathways, lead indications, beachhead markets. We know how strong is your IP portfolio? What is your timeline? What is the cost of things? How are you going to price things? There's a huge number of activities and understanding that is needed to be successful in innovation. And it's really confusing, especially when you're coming from the side of the research and not the business side of it. And so the good news is we are here to help. Because this is an example of the timeline of developing a technology. This one is for an implant, so a medical implant. These are just the standard feedback loops of how this process works. It is intense, but you can learn about these processes and you can do it on your own if you want. You've got LinkedIn, you've got YouTube videos, there's out-of-date books like the Lean Startup from 2013. Lots of institutions like Harvard have really expensive workshops that you can participate in. You could get a degree in innovation in healthcare as well at a number of places. You can even hire somebody personally and they can high five you if you wanted. I mean, there's lots of ways to learn about all of these technologies. But not all of these things are really valuable or useful for researchers because of your time constraints, your interests, etc. So let's focus in on how the perspective of the researcher approaches innovation. A lot of the research that is done inside the university goes along this path of idea to pilot study to funded research. You get your NIH, R01s, etc. And on the other side of that is the product development, clinical trials, all of the things that happen outside the university and usually not done by the original researcher. A lot of times that's done by other groups, people. And so the problem is there's a gap in the middle of that. And that gap is where translational research happens. So translational research has a lot of different activities to it, including target validation, prototyping, dose responses, etc. There's a lot of information you need to gather that's translational. What this work is not about the research that you've done as a discovery researcher, because we're not doing those activities to prove that research is sound. You've already done that with your NIH grants. You've done that with your publications. You've had the peer review that says this is sound research, it's good research, it's done. The reason we do these translational activities helps to de-risk a technology so that everybody knows that it has a good chance of success in the marketplace. So there's a difference in sort of why you're doing the different activities, right? So that means it has to be safe, it has to be effective at reasonable doses. That, if it's a prototype or a device, it has to have materials that are safe inside the body and it's not going to break down in ways that are going to make people sicker. Um, all of those activities are part of that translational research spectrum. And that helps us bridge that gap between those two. So why is this not just a complete chain and going right through translational research to the clinical side of things? The short answer is money. No one wants to take the risk. People don't like that risky area in between, um, because they want to make sure that they're going to get a return on the investment that they're putting in. On the left side, you've got nonprofit organizations. They're not going to get anything back from their money. They might break even if they're lucky. But most of the time, you're investing money, and what's coming out the other end isn't a return on your investment. It might be the publications, the students that you're training, et cetera. That's what that's there for. On the other side of it, the for-profit companies, they really do want to make a return on their investment. So they don't want to take risky uh, products into the market, and they don't want to invest in risky opportunities. They want to know that there's going to be a chance of success, because they're not going to put their money in and say, oh, I made a mistake, it didn't work out, and we lost millions of dollars. Because at that side of things, it is really expensive to take a risk. So they want to see that de-risking activity in the middle. So in the middle of that, our office, the Center for Medical Innovation, among many other groups, there's some of them at Penn State, include the Office of Entrepreneurship and Commercialization up at University Park, the Office of Technology Transfer. There are different innovation groups at different colleges, including Eberly and Harrisburg, that are working under these same sort of middle of this chain processes. And those groups are made up of people who know a little bit about a lot of things. So a lot of us are just as nerdy as researchers, but we just like to learn about all the different things and not in such depth. So that helps us be a good champion to help you understand where you need to be. If we don't have the answer, we will find it for you. And as I go through the rest of these slides, you're going to see there's a lot of information that needs to be provided. You saw in that earlier slide some of the questions that I was posing, like, we need to be able to get answers to that. And if we don't have it, we need to be able to find the people that do have that. So again, we come back to the biggest need for being able to do this translational research and get you out the door into a market, and that's money. So translational research funding, especially with inside a university, and not just Penn State, but a lot of universities are very similar, it falls in the range of about $25,000 to $100,000, and it's usually a 6 to 12 month commitment. And it is a mentored, guided process so that the people in our office who have some of that information about innovation can help make sure that the technology processes are going forward. We can help you find CROs and do some of the work that you need to do. We can help you, let you know what some of the requirements are for regulatory affairs, or talk to the people that need to be done. These research funds are usually milestone driven. This isn't about specific aims and discovering something. It's about taking what you already know and making it less risky for the next person. These are also very time sensitive. The way technology moves so fast out there in the real world is a lot faster than the way we live in the university. And so we want you to fail fast, right? Let's get the answers as quickly as possible. And if there isn't a way for that technology to move forward towards a product, we want to know before we invest even more money in it so we can pivot. So this is not a pilot award. This is a little different. There's lots of internal opportunities at Penn State and in the central Pennsylvania area. Obviously, our office has several of them, but we also work very closely with the CTSI. We have the Center for Biodevices, the Office of Technology Transfer, and several of our external partners are involved in this process. And so we can talk about that if you want. On the larger scale, there are national and statewide opportunities for funding that include things like DARPA, the American Heart Association, the NSF. There are some great new opportunities that are coming out that if you're interested in them, I'd really love to talk to you more about it. ARPA-H is one of those opportunities that has large commercialization opportunities. We're talking 10 to $30 million per project over the course of 2 or 3 years. That's a lot of money spent, and it's going to be done in several areas at once so that we can get these technologies to market as quickly as possible. Also, the NSF has a new regional innovation program, and there's actually a webinar tomorrow that I'm attending to learn more about the next immediate opportunity that I can bring to everybody and tell them about. So these are other opportunities that we may not be involved in running, but we keep track of these things and we bring them to the researchers that we can find a good match for those. Oops. Next. All right. Again, this is a little bit about our office and what we can help you with, but it's also about letting people know sort of what innovation looks like. And this flow chart across the top is sort of the pipeline of innovation. Is once you've got your discovery made, you've got your first R01 publications done. Engagement is sort of where people come in and they start looking at innovation and what can it do for them, how do they get into this involvement? And then you move into sort of assessing your technology, getting intellectual property protection on it, et cetera. At that point, we start developing it. So we do some of this translational testing. We look at accelerating your technology towards exit and de-risking it. And eventually we get to the point where we want to do commercialization, company formation, or licensing the technology. There's a lot of overlap in some of these areas as well. And in the end, we do want these technologies to be licensed. And that helps a lot of people in a lot of ways. It helps the technology get to market so that the patients can be affected by it, but it also helps the researchers because it brings revenue into the community so that we can fund more of these things as we go. The best part about this is that there are multiple points of entry. You don't have to start at the beginning. If you're already in the phase where you're ready for development and translational funding, that's where you can come in. If you're at the very, very beginning of this and you just want to have a couple of conversations for a while, yeah, you can participate in that. The other part of this is that it's not just about the funding. If you look at the list of blue underneath, we have a capstone program for undergrads. What that really does is help take ideas and give it a little bit of a push to test some of those ideas to see if that can become a larger project and become something that could be very innovative. We also help co-fund technologies and provide project management support with other, like with the CTSI and with the Center for Biodevices in Harrisburg. We pay attention to what's going on with other funding opportunities to make sure that everybody's moving forward and it's going at the right pace and people are entering at the right place. We provide a lot of support along the way for all of these things. The Biostrategy Partners Germinator Fund, we help manage that through our partnership with Biostrategies. And of the 4 projects that we have had funded by the Germinator program, 3 of those have already gotten licensed. And so it's a very successful program because we're very careful about making sure that we put the right people in the right place. And obviously, industry partnerships and the external central PA ecosystem is part of what we're trying to support. Another aspect of what we're doing, but also to help our community learn more about innovation is training and education. Obviously, we're a university. We're here to teach people stuff. And we do it in a way that, we can do it with curriculum, but we can also do it outside of the normal curriculum. So one of the great programs that's offered nationally is the I-Core. And if you haven't heard about the I-Core, you probably have, to be honest. It has been uh, franchised essentially across the universities, research institutions, even companies run I-Core programming. Our old boss, Kevin, is working now with a company, and the first thing he did when he joined the company was to do customer discovery to make sure that he understood what was going on and that they were reaching the right market. So the process of the I-Core is to examine important questions about your technology area from the actual people who make the decisions, which is not always who you think it is, right? Patients rarely actually make decisions about their own healthcare if they're going to a doctor. The doctor helps them make those decisions, but those doctors even aren't always the decision makers because it's about, how much does it cost to carry this stuff, or who do we have partnerships with as a hospital system? And so there are people who spend the money to bring those technologies to the hospitals and to the doctors to allow that to be there. So there's a lot of questions about who has the influence, who's paying the bills, and who has the door for you to get through to bring your technology to the market. So the other part of this is, are you actually solving a problem, or did you just discover something that's kind of cool and maybe they don't actually need it? And what are the gaps that are in the current standard of care that maybe you can pivot a little bit and find the right gap and get yourself into that market? And there are also a lot of other factors that need to be considered when you're thinking about your technology, because it's not always about this is a drug that helps this population of people. There's other factors in terms of like who needs to administer that drug, how is that drug administered, how often does it need to be administered, and how is the compliance being handled with that. There's so many things that go on with that. The I-Core is really great at helping you understand how to do this process, um, building a business model based on the interview questions and answers that you get, and then mentoring you and guiding you through this process from start to finish. And this is one of those programs that you can go through the I-Core multiple times across the timeline of your technology or multiple technologies, and it's going to be different every time. So it's really valuable. And we have several across Penn State and Central PA as well. So you can always find one of these running probably 2 or 3 times a year. This is one of my pet projects. I love this program. I helped build this program, and I will yap at you all day about this program. Jess knows she's part of it. She's so sick of hearing me talk about it, but I love it. This is the Innovation Fellows Program. We are really grateful at the Center for Medical Innovation because this program is supported by an endowment from the Peter and Ann Cullen Tombrose Endowment, the Center for Medical Innovation. So this allows us to support trainees to learn more about innovation and entrepreneurship on a non-curriculum basis. So it's a 12-month fellowship with themed meetings monthly. And then we provide several layers of mentorship to those trainees. And we use a flipped classroom technology, which is basically giving them the readings, the videos, and all of the materials that they can read and they can take in on their own, do some worksheets and do some work privately, and then come to class and be engaged in actively conversing, practicing, asking questions, and getting answers from the speakers that we have participating with us. So like I said, we have one-on-one mentoring, and we have this cohort of fellows who work together for the entire year, so we really encourage them to work with each other. There's a lot of themes. Obviously, there's the same themes we saw in the beginning of my talk. And so if you want to know more about this, please tell me. I will yap at you for days about this. It's a really wonderful program, and I'd love to get more people involved in it. Coming up in the future, there's more opportunities for education and training through the CMI and through other areas. For example, we are working on creating a health care innovation and entrepreneurship graduate certificate. This is actually in partnership with the Harrisburg campus, and it's a really great way for people to get a Penn State certificate in graduate certificate with only 4 courses, and some of them might overlap with what they're already doing with their coursework if they're enrolled in classes anyway. It's also available for people who are outside the university to come in and take these courses if you're in industry, if you're in the workplace, but you realize that you want to have a more in-depth understanding of how these processes work. You can take 4 classes and get a graduate certificate. It shouldn't take that long. And so we're in the process of doing that. We're hoping to get started spring of 2026. So keep your fingers crossed that all the bureaucracy and red tape gets handled before then. One of the other programs that's coming up next spring is the Y Center, which is a nonprofit organization out of New York. They have a design thinking retreat. That's a 2-day program that they run. And we were lucky enough to have an opportunity to work with them, subsidized with a grant from the UN. So we got it at a lower cost. And so they're coming in the spring. We're going to open up registration for that very soon. LifeX is a program that's run out of Pittsburgh, and it's part of the sort of academic environment. But they do a lot of innovation work as well, and they work closely with our office on accelerator programs and company startup formation. And this fall, we're working with them to do a Shark Tank type of pitch craft opportunity. So that'll be really fun and interesting to watch. They're going to have industry experts give feedback. And then another part of this is we're bringing back the Innovation Cafe. So anybody who has been here at this university since before COVID, there used to be these in-person innovation cafes that were really great opportunities to learn more about innovation and specific innovations going on in the Central PA region. We're going to retool it a little bit. Obviously, a post-COVID world, things are a little different and people feel a little differently about how they gather, but we're bringing those back. And so you should be hearing more about those as well. And so we're going to get some more information out there into the universe. And finally, again, coming up in the next couple of years, we're really working on creating an innovation collaboratory that is a multidisciplinary learning environment that's going to incorporate a lot of different areas, not just medicine, but engineering, basic life sciences, humanities, law, all of these aspects, and bring in industry experts to talk about all these things from from a multiple of perspectives to really help people broaden their understanding of how this fits into the universe of things. Okay, we also have plenty of other resources outside of the university. If you don't know what some of these are, again, happy to yap at you about them. We can talk about this stuff. There are greenhouses, there's biotechnology supported by the state of Pennsylvania. Again, we have venture fairs and Invent Penn State. These are annual venture fairs where you can do pitch competitions and win a little bit of money. We've had several of our projects participate in those every year, and they usually win. If not first place, then they get something out of it. We have launch boxes at most of our campuses that are they're more geared around devices and digital technology versus something like wet lab research, but they're very valuable in themselves, and they also have a lot of business experience that they can talk to you about, even if you're not using their tools within the actual launch box. And finally, I want to talk a little bit about another opportunity that my office is working on. We call it the Smith. It's the Smart Medical Tech Hub, and it is actually in collaboration with Penn State Harrisburg again, because it's going to live on their campus. They have a lot of space over there that's not being used, and we're converting some space into it's going to be incubator space. It's going to have accelerator opportunities. There's going to be business partners there. We're going to have, hopefully, startup companies will have spaces to be available to rent so that we can build this environment where innovation is happening on site and people are learning from each other. And we're sort of collecting it all in one place to really bring that brain power to life in one place. And so that's coming down the pipeline as well. So we're really working on developing a lot of these things for everybody. So you don't have to trust me. These are all the people that we're working with right now along this pipeline of technology. Talk to some of these people. If you see a name on here you like, if you see a name on here you don't like, don't talk to them. We don't want you to talk to anybody you don't like. Find your favorite person on here and talk to them about how their work with us feels to them. And if they say anything about DeChant, that's not me. That's another person entirely. So, but seriously, this is we're trying to build this pipeline of people coming through this technology, and we're trying to put more people on this list. We want to double this list at least. And so we want people to come in and talk to us at any point that you have an interest in what we're doing or what you think that there's something innovative about what you're doing. Come talk to us, because it doesn't matter if the idea is written on a napkin. We want to hear about it so we can help give you a little bit of information when you need it. And we can keep an eye on things and make sure that, if you have questions in the future, we'll check in on you and let you know when there are opportunities that we also find that might match with what you're doing. The other thing I want to point out is that, as I mentioned, we don't have anything against licensing technologies or startup companies. That's not our job. We don't want you to all quit and leave and go start companies, because that would be very bad for my career to have all of these faculty leave. So please don't do that. But we are all about getting these technologies out to market, whether it's by license or startup company or anything. We do want those things to be successful and have revenue coming in, because what that means is that revenue becomes part of a cycle of helping the next technology that's coming along the pipeline. So those ones that are on the left of the screen can get that funding, and if we have a steady supply of that funding to reinvest into, so that they can continue this, what's called a virtuous cycle of advancing treatments. So we're also looking into investing with philanthropic opportunities. We're working very closely with marketing and communications to make sure that we have very good PR for what we're doing. We're working with the development office to make sure that we can do philanthropic opportunities as much as possible. But also, we're trying to amplify every dollar that we spend to get those technologies moving faster, because there are a lot of places that have matching funds opportunities. So if the Germinator program, for example, at BioStrategy Partners, they have uh, their program, you have to match the dollars. And so our office provides those dollars to be able to participate in that program. And obviously, we've gotten a lot of success out of that particular program, like I mentioned. But that's why we are here too, is we want to let you know that these opportunities exist, and we want you to know that when we're looking for matching funds for you. So again, this is all about sort of what our office is doing to help make sure that this cycle is continuing and that we have sustainable growth. Now, of course, the beauty of this would be if we could become self-sustaining. And so we're working towards that end as well over the next couple of years to really grow our federal grants that we have as an office, and to actually increase the number of the dollars of royalties that we have that we can reinvest in our office as well. So that's part of what my job is to help make sure that we do that, so that we can get to that sustainability page. All right, so I know I talked really fast and I didn't go into a lot of detail about anything in particular, but I want to hear from you guys when you get to that point. In the meantime, I want to tell you a really cool story. You might hear this story again in the future, because I think she's recently interviewed. So it's called RibFix. It's a technology that came out of Penn State. Dr. Peter Dillon, Dr. Don Mackay, and Randy Halleck, along with Barry Fell, who's a biomedical engineer. They created this RibFix system that helps with rib breaks and fractures with being less invasive, because it provides for better recovery and more complete recovery. It is a licensed technology. It is out there in the universe. It is being used by hospitals across the country now. And that has come out of our university. And that is something that we are very proud to talk about. Recently, we heard from a woman named Nancy, who is an Ironman finisher. She has done multiple Ironman competitions across her life. She lives in Texas. She was hit by an SUV and had massive internal damage. 9 rib fractures, 7 of them fractured in multiple places, a hemopneumothorax, scapula fractures. I mean, she was in bad shape. And without even knowing it, she was provided this RibFix technology to help on her healing journey. The beauty of this is Nancy is a Penn State alum. So in Texas, Nancy's getting technologies developed at Penn State at her alumnus, and bringing her back from surviving this accident to thriving. She's back on her bike. She's competing in competitions again. And just this past summer, she was able to compete in Spain with her husband and her daughter because of this RibFix technology. And that's the kind of story that we love to hear about, because that means that the things that we're doing in our office that sometimes feel painfully slow and painfully bureaucratic, there's a lot of paperwork. There's always so much paperwork. but it really means that what we're doing has value, and it actually, gets to patients out there in the world and can make their lives better. And so that's why we do what we're doing. And I really want to just be here to talk to people about what our office can help, and I want to hear about your technology as well. So this is our office. It's a small office. Erica is our executive director. If you, she's been here probably the longest. I think many of you might know her or know her name. A lot of the rest of us are fairly new. Reach out to any one of us. We are here to talk. The other thing I want to point out, and you'll get a copy of this afterwards, is we have a digital version of our innovation report that we were handing out paper copies of over the last several months. But we have a digital copy that you're welcome to access as soon as you get this in your inboxes. And you can look through some of the other stories about what we're doing and what we're currently working on. So I think that's it. That's the end of my talk. Did I stop sharing? Okay, I stopped sharing. There we go. All right. I'd love to hear a little bit more about your technologies and what you have questions about, what you're interested in hearing about. What have you got for me? I know I see DeChant on here. We're in the middle of working on some really great technologies with DeChant and his group. So he's a great person to talk to about what we're doing.
Feel free to unmute and ask Anne any questions that you might have about the Center for Medical Innovation or any of the programs that they offer. Go ahead.
I just have a comment. I'm a former clinician, hospital administrator. I've worked in the area of community health development, population health development for over 30, 40 years. I've been retired from a health system since 2015, but I continue to do a lot of consulting. And one of the things that I found so interesting in this title was just really having a better understanding, of what is going on in terms of innovation in healthcare, and particularly as it relates to research. I sit on the advisory board for the Cancer Center, and when they send out things and invites of topics that are interesting to me and topics that I feel I can be applicable to my work, I sign on. And I just want to thank you. This is just a wonderful presentation. And it was really amazing to me to see how much work is being done and the future perspectives that you have in terms of improving research through innovation. And I was also very impressed with the collaboration that is underway and with the number of partners and organizations that are working on this. Would you say that your primary supporters of this are government funding, state funding? Where do you find your primary source? Because so many agencies and funders are not into innovation, and they really stand by older practical processes and procedures. So I was just curious how you're able to support this, not only now, but in the future. It sounds like you're doing really well in that area.
We are doing well, and we also, even some of it's a little bit of luck sometimes. I love the fact that one of the biggest revenue generators that comes through the College of Medicine is a clinical checklist. It is a digital technology that is a clinical checklist. It's not even patented. It's something that's copyrighted. And that is one of our biggest revenue generators because it just happened to be something that had really large value, not only to hospital systems, but also to companies and pharma companies that develop technologies for those hospital systems. So there's all kinds of ways that you can bring in technologies that are valuable and sustain what's going on afterwards. And so, yes, so these royalties and license fees that come through, a little bit of that trickles down to us. And so we use, like I said, we reinvest that. That's one of our sources of income. Another one is philanthropy. Like I said, Peter Tombros and family, we work very hard at making sure that our donors know what we're doing, and and if they want to participate, we let them participate in any way that they see that fits what their interests are. And we'd love to talk to more people about that. We have also written a lot of grants. That list of external grants with DARPA and ARPA and on the NSF. We've written, I think, 6 grants in the last year, and those are all 10 million or larger, just to be able to bring money to the region. Most of those are collaborations with other universities so that each of the innovation groups can have a share in this. And so we're really trying to build up the environment around Central PA, not just Penn State, but really we work with Temple and we work with some of these other institutions in Jefferson. And so, we write grants so that we have funding as well. But we also want to help our researchers get those innovation dollars that come through, like the American Heart Association or NSF awards or DoD awards. Those indirects sometimes, that's part of our income as well, because we're helping build those technologies with them. So we really do try to provide as much of our own resources as we can, and we're continuing to build on that as we go. Again, some of the stuff we're doing for the future, the Smith is going to hopefully be self-sustaining and actually bring in a few dollars to help support some of the earlier stage research coming through as well. But we do also have funding from the university that helps support what we're doing too, because it's important. It's part of the strategic plan for the College of Medicine and the university as a whole. So
Thank you.
I appreciate you being here. I didn't pay you to say all those nice things. I appreciate that you say that. We are like I said, I love to talk about this stuff. It's really I found my passion when I started working on this years ago.
Thank you.
And so something that I found interesting when I started working with you and your group is the intellectual property. Could you talk a little bit more about that and like protecting your intellectual property?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good question. So just to be clear, my office doesn't do the paperwork for intellectual property. That's the Office of Technology Transfer at Central Campus. But we are sort of that lifeline between College of Medicine and that office, the OTT. And we can help guide all those processes as they go through the OTT office. So intellectual property can be, like I said, it can be a copyright. If it's any kind of digital technology, that's usually how that's done. But any kind of patenting technology, we also work with everybody on understanding when you want to report your invention, how you want to report your invention, and when you need to sort of support those things before you make it public notice. So the basics of intellectual property is, if you're the first person to develop this and you don't put protection around it and you start talking about it out in public, like you publish it, or you go to a conference and you talk about it in the data, and it's something that somebody can take a picture of your poster or record your talk and go back to their lab and do it themselves, you've lost that protection because now it's public knowledge. So we always want to talk to you before you get to that point, right? So if you're still at the idea stage, or you're doing this research and you've got some money for this research but you haven't published it yet, talk to us first. We're never going to try and slow you down on publishing or getting your grants or getting things moved on to the next stage. We just want to make sure that you have the protection around that cool technology so that you can take it out there and go towards the marketplace. Because intellectual property itself is a currency in this world. If you have a lot of intellectual property and you have a lot of space protected with large fences, then companies are going to be way more interested in what you have inside that fence, because that means that they can get it to market and they can get their profits off of it much more easily than if it's not protected by a fence. So the way that our university handles this is actually pretty quick and easy, as much as possible. And so just talk to us and we will get it through as quickly as we can. And we have some great people working at OTT and we work very closely with them. So thanks for the question, Jess. Abby,
Hey,
hello.
great presentation. Thank you for presenting. So, I have a question about, you mentioned, I don't want to bring it down, but you mentioned
That's
the
okay.
paperwork involved and all kind of like
Yep.
the regulatory pathway. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I often like, I'll meet some folks who have an idea for like an app or something, and then connect them with you all, and the CMI team. Can you kind of talk about like how you describe what the path is going to be for them and how you kind of manage those expectations when they're really excited and want to get stuff done quickly, but there's just like really important things that they have to do first and important reasons why they have to do those first? Like, can you describe what that looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. That's another great question. That is sort of our job as well, which is, building these relationships and managing these expectations about, I'm going to take this out to the FDA tomorrow, and by next week I'll be, I'll have a company that's selling my technology to hospitals, and I'll become rich by the end of the year. And obviously, that's not how things really work. So we help people understand sort of, we do want these things to move quickly, but we also want things to fail quickly, right? So we don't want to invest dollars in something that's not going to be successful. So we want to get those answers quickly and as cheaply as possible, obviously. But if there is still life in something and we still see that there's a path forward, we're going to continue to support that. And we're going to help you find the funding to get that done. And we're going to also guide your research in terms of that. We'll help you find your CROs. We'll help you manage what you're doing with regulatory affairs. For example, we have a regulatory expert who's part of the Startup Leadership Network at Central Campus, and she's a wonderful person. Regulatory affairs is a different language. It is one step below sorcery as far as I'm concerned. And so I'm starting to learn the language, and that's me 15 years into doing innovations. And so it can take a long time to really understand regulatory pathways and things like that. So whatever we don't know, we will bring in the experts, and we will help. I am always here to help translate everything, because it is often one language to another, business language to science language, and science language to regulatory language. And how do you make other people understand? So I go in these directions and help everybody on both sides understand what is being said to them and what the expectations are. And so that really helps. And the people who are the best at it are the ones who end up becoming serial entrepreneurs, because they can see it coming a mile away. When there's a really cool technology, they can talk to everybody, bring them all on board. And we are in touch with those people as well. A lot of them are alumni who want to give back to our institution, and a lot of them will do it for little or no money. They'll come in and say, let me give you feedback on this technology. Let me tell you what to do next, because I've done this. I've made 6 companies, and they've been successful, and I will help you. And so we never work alone. We always work with tons of people. Managing the timelines, it's never going to not be frustrating. I mean, just working here at the university as a researcher doing your regular grants, it's never not going to be frustrating, because there's always bureaucracy, there's regulatory issues, there's, training, there's, conflict of interest stuff. But that's never going to prevent you from going down that pathway, right? Even conflict of interest. If you can say that there's a conflict of interest on certain levels, all you have to do is fill out the paperwork and make sure that there's some regulations and some guideposts in place. You can still do the thing you want to do. You just have to let people know. You have to do reports. You have to do a few more pieces of paper, but you can still go down that amazing pathway and become, part of a company and make that company successful as while you're still here as a faculty member. I hope that kind of answers the question.
It did. Thank you.
Yeah, regulatory affairs is one step below reimbursements, the CMS reimbursements and the coding for that. That is sorcery. And even people who work in the FDA talk about reimbursements being sorcery. So don't ask me. I will bring in somebody who is an expert. But we do have a lot of opportunities for both you and your trainees. The Innovation Fellows program is really geared towards postdocs, senior graduate students, and even medical students, because that brings value to them for their career development, but it also brings value to the research lab where the research is being done, because they take the information about innovation back to the lab, and that helps them move that technology forward without taking up too much of the time of the researcher. I think I-Corps is a great program for researchers, for the PIs to participate in, because it's really short, it's really intense, and then you can get those interviews done and really understand a little bit more about the pathway forward for your technology. And like I said, there's lots of other things going on. There's all those funding mechanisms that we can talk about, and when they're open, and who's talking to who about them. I think CTSI's Bridges to Translation is going to open in the next month, I think. Yeah. Probably.
Oh, well, actually, so we're in the last year of our grant, so we won't have it for next year, but
so we're skipping
assuming everything goes according to plan a year from now.
Normally it opens at this time of the year.
Yep.
Thanks, Kelsey. Yeah. So these are all the things that we keep track of too. So that's part of, again, what our small office does, is keep track of all these things, so that when that RFA opens up, we're coming to you to tell you should apply for this now, before you miss the deadline, because you guys have a lot of enough to do with your own research. So we're here to help track some of that stuff for you. I think we all see those emails that come through from the development office, when it's all those things that are posted on InfoReady, that I don't even have time to look through them very detailed. I look and see if it's anything that relates to what my portfolio is doing, and if not, it has to go. There's just too many. What else can I help you with? Well, you can always reach out to us. We're online. You guys can have my email address. I know Jess and Abby and Kelsey and everybody from CTSI knows me. So if you know Erica, you can reach out to her. Nuwan focuses on medical devices and digital technology, but both of us, we all overlap sort of, because you know how it is at universities. Everybody does a little bit of everything. So let us know what you're working on. It's cool. I love to hear this kind of stuff anyway. I want to know what cool technologies are happening.
Well, thank you, Anne. This was a great presentation, and I'm pretty sure everybody learned something from your talk. So if you registered for this presentation, you will get a copy of the video. It'll also be posted, like I said earlier, onto our YouTube channel. And I just want to let you know that our upcoming TSS, our next one is September 17th, and we will be talking about the affiliates program here at CTSI. And then we will have an actual affiliate presenting her research. So I'll put the link to register in the chat, but you can also keep your eye out on the CTSI newsletter, which is where we advertise most of our talks for TSS. So if nobody has anything else, Anne and I will stay on for a minute or two, but I just want to thank you again for coming and listening, and hopefully we'll see you again.